Good evening, everyone. Hearings Officer Frank, are you going to open the hearing, or would you like me to begin?
I am. I'm trying to start my video, but it is not responding. The host has disabled it.
I ran into this issue at my last hearing as well. Give me just a second. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to fix it. I apologize, but our normal producer is out tonight. And I know we did run into this issue previously, but our current producer will do her best to get it working. But I don't know, Greg, if Hearings Officer Frank, if you feel comfortable proceeding without your camera. But I'll defer to you.
I'm comfortable proceeding without the camera. I did have a comment a couple hearings back from at least one of the participants that was uncomfortable not being able to see me, and I feel bad for that, but I will assure everyone who's attending this hearing that I am here. I would be accessible by video if possible, but I'd like to proceed if we could. Let's officially go on the record now for case number 247-2100111. SP. It is April 6th, 2022, and it is just a little bit after 6 p.m. My name is Greg Frank, and I'm the hearings officer assigned to hear this case. The hearing will be conducted via Zoom, or affectionately referred to as electronic means. Before we turn to the particulars of this particular hearing, I would like to turn things over to Deschutes County Planner Carolyn House to describe how the Zoom or electronic process works. Ms. House, it is yours.
Thank you, Hearings Officer Frank. For the record, my name is Caroline House, and I'm a senior planner with the Deschutes County Planning Division. Tonight's hearing is for a site plan review for 70 overnight lodging units within the Thornburgh Destination Resort. And I do want to note the applicant has requested a continuance of tonight's hearing, which Hearings Officer Frank will address shortly. But before that, I do have some instructions on how the hearing tonight will be conducted. First, I'll explain the hearing format and how members of the public can testify. Then Hearings Officer Frank will address the applicant's continuance request, and then interested persons can testify and present their testimony if desired. Tonight's hearing is a hybrid format where both in-person and remote participation is allowed. I do want to note, if for any reason our internet connection is interrupted, please give us a few moments to get back online. And if you're attending remotely and your own connection becomes interrupted, please log back in using the same link or phone number if you've called in. And for our remote participants joining us via Zoom, There are two types of participants. You're either an attendee or a panelist. Right now, everyone's an attendee. That's not either the hearings officer or county staff. And as an attendee, your audio and video are not recorded. But when you want to provide testimony or interact with us, you'll need to be elevated to a panelist. And at that time, your audio and video will be recorded, and you'll have the ability to control your microphone and video at that time. For in-person participants, if you are wanting to testify tonight, please make sure you've signed in on the sheet, and we'll use this list to call everyone up. And then if you're attending remotely, in a few moments, the hearings officer, once the continuance request is addressed, your name will be added to the list for testimony. A few helpful tools for our Zoom participants, and this is for anyone joining us using a computer or smart device. In the lower left-hand corner, you'll see your mute button. When you are promoted to a panelist, you will have to click this button for us to hear you. And you may also want to use this button if you don't want your audio recorded and you need to talk with your legal counsel. Just beside this button is also a video button. Again, you may want to switch off your video or turn on your video when you're elevated to a panelist. And the other key feature that will be really important tonight is the raise hand feature. And you'll find this on the lower part of your screen, kind of center right. You'll need to click this to raise your hand, and this will be necessary at several different stages of the process. So make sure you pay attention to that one. The other remote participants that have joined us using Zoom but have dialed in, so you've called in, the same features are available, but you'll need to use your keypad. If you want to unmute or mute yourself, you'll need to dial *6 on your keypad. And then for the raise hand feature, it will be *9 on your keypad. And if you can't see the screen, I encourage you to write that down. So again, it's *9 if you've called in to raise your hand. So the hearings officer, Frank, and myself are responsible for an orderly hearing tonight. Anyone being disruptive will be asked to leave. You can also submit written testimony tonight. If you're in person, please hand that to me before you start your testimony. And if you're attending remotely, you can send that to me via email. My email is my first and last name, caroline.house@deschutes.org. And any email submittals that are longer than 20 pages include color figures or need to be printed on a sheet size larger than 8.5 by 11. You'll need to submit a hard copy as well. So at this time, I'm going to ask if there are any objections to this hearing format. If you're attending remotely, you'll need to use the raise hand feature to notify me now. Any raised hands, William? All right, seeing none, I will turn the hearing back over to Hearings Officer Frank for his review of the applicant's continuance request.
Thank you, Ms. House. At this time, I'd like to, before I get started with the request for the continuance that I've understood is going to be made, or has been made, at least in writing, I'd like to address my prior involvement with the Thornburgh Resort applications, the hearings, various hearings and decisions. As many in the audience are aware, I have heard and I have decided a number of Thornburgh applications. I understand that many, if not all, of my prior decisions have been appealed to at least the Board of Commissioners, but perhaps also to the Oregon Land Use Board of Appeals. While familiar with the evidence and the arguments presented in those particular prior cases, I assure everyone participating in this case that I am capable and willing to keep an open mind with respect to the evidence and arguments presented in this case. My contacts with the applicant's representatives, primary opponents, and her or their representatives and individuals testifying for and against Thornburgh Resort proposals have all been done via the public testimony or through record evidentiary argument submissions. I have no personal stake or financial interest in whether this application is approved or denied. My interest has been and continues to be, to the best of my ability, to consider the relevant evidence and apply it correctly to the relevant laws or rules. I believe that I do not have any conflicts of interest that affect my decision in this case. I believe I do not have any bias towards applicant or any opponent or any other person involved in this case, and I believe that I can render an objective decision in this case. At this time, similar to what Ms. House did, I'm going to ask if anyone has an objection, believing that I, in fact, have a conflict of interest or a bias, and therefore should not be hearing this case. If you do not believe that I should be hearing this case, I need you to raise my hand. I will make sure you're recognized, and I will allow you to present your testimony.
Seeing none.
I see no hands raised.
Okay, thank you. Then I will continue on with this process. Based on Planner House's opening comments, I intend to ask the applicant to address the issue of a continuance. Following the applicant's continuance related testimony, I will ask for any testimony objecting to or wishing to discuss applicant's requested continuance. So with that, is there an applicant or applicant's representative who wishes to present testimony relating to a continuance this evening?
Ken's requesting to be elevated.
Yeah, can you promote Ken Katzeroff, please?
Ken Katzar for the applicant. Similarly, my video is also disabled by the host, which is probably a good thing since I've been traveling today.
I see an emoji kind of like thing, so you've changed in appearance. Would you do me a favor, spell your first and last name and give a mailing address, please?
Yes, sir. So Kenneth, Kenneth, Katzaroff, Katzarooff. For the applicant, my address is 1420 5th Avenue, Suite 3400. The suite number is important in the address. As a protestant or an opponent in a Thornburgh case previously, did not provide it, and therefore we did not get service of an appeal. Seattle, Washington, 98101. The only testimony I have today is that, consistent with the code and the email I sent to planning staff a few days ago, is that an applicant's continuance shall be granted. We were coordinating with staff previously. Staff believe we did not need a date certain. We have settled on a date certain of, in theory, May 4th. The reason for the continuance is that, quite frankly, we believe there are some issues in the staff report that have already been decided, as well as some issues that need to be corrected, including some mapping and conditions that were addressed. We have no additional testimony to provide other than to ask for the continuance. And in the event there is additional testimony this evening, we would request the opportunity to potentially rebut it. I will also note, for those who are listening or in the room tonight, that I am the only applicant representative in the room, and the applicant himself was unable to attend given the change in circumstances and the request for continuance tonight. So we are not providing any additional testimony other than what I have previously or just now given. I'm happy to answer any questions of the hearings officer. Otherwise, I believe I am complete.
Thank you, Mr. Katzeroff. At least I can tell you that my video, for those of you who are participating, is now working. Whatever happened, I appreciate. It's always, I think, beneficial. I understand your request, so I'm now going to ask, is there anyone wishing to provide testimony related solely to the issuance or not of a continuance to potentially May 4th. Ms. House, anybody raising their hand?
Yes, we have Mr. Kleiman has his hand raised, and our producer will elevate him if that's okay.
Yes, please.
Good evening. This is Jeff Kleinman, Kleinman, 1207 Southwest 6th Avenue, Portland, Oregon, 97204. I am the attorney for Nunzi Gould. Have no objection to the continuance. Just out of an abundance of caution, want to request that in the event the continuance request is for some reason withdrawn tonight, that the record be held open or the hearing be continued on our request for at least 14 days. As I said, no objection to the applicant's request.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kleinman. Anyone else, Ms. House, raising their hand wishing to testify related solely to the issue of the continuance?
Yes, it looks like Christine Larson has also raised her hand.
Ms. Larson?
Would a continuance include having proper legal notice posted where the public can read the information that this hearing has been continued to May 7th or 4th or whatever?
Good question. But I have in my notes that I prepared before the hearing, two questions, one of which you just asked. Not so much as the posting, but I will amend my question relating to the notice of the continued hearing. I will amend to that your request regarding, I'm assuming, the site placement of notice of hearing. Is that correct?
Actually, it's both. If they can just post something that says that the hearing's been delayed, and I believe it's another issue is if they could please place the hearing notice somewhere safe and readable, like by their entry gate. So just as long as we get notice that the hearing has been continued.
Okay. And Ms. Larson, would you do me a favor?
Yeah.
Would you give me your address so that we have it at the mailing address? Because I'm going to request that you are sent a notice of continuance.
Yes, it's 20200 Marsh Road, 97703.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate your question.
Thank you.
Anyone else raising their hand?
Yes, Mr. Katsaroff has his hand raised as well.
Before we get to Mr. Katsaroff, anyone else that hasn't spoken?
No one else has their hands raised.
All right, Mr. Katsaroff, I was going to call you back up anyway, so you're on.
And my video is now working as well.
You are truly on.
I appreciate that, sir. Again, Ken Katsaroff for the record, Schwabi Williamson and Wyatt for the applicants. Two quick things. I believe that the land use sign has now been posted. I will note that as we informed planning staff did not inform either of the applicant's representatives who were on the application that the sign had been prepared or was ready for pickup. I do not recall whether or not it was that was noted in the staff report. However, I noted it in my response to planning staff, and I can't seem to find it right now. In any event, I am unaware of a requirement under the code for it to be reposted physically. But as discussion with planning staff has occurred, we have mentioned that we understand that the public hearing will need to be renoticed. And Deschutes County has a number of notice provisions, which include noticing in, for example, the newspaper. So I'm not sure what else we can do there other than follow the procedures ordinance, and the applicant would obviously consent to applying the procedures ordinance in this application.
Understand. My other question, which was related to you, and I'm just confirming, I'm not asking it as
Yes,
a
sir.
brand new thing, is I just want you to confirm in writing exactly what your intent is with respect to the 150-day clock and this continuance.
Sure. Under the code, the applicant has to agree to waive the clock until the date certain next hearing, and so we have confirmed that with planning staff. And again, are willing to do so as we are required. And I just found on page 14 of the staff report that it looks like the sign, they mentioned that the the sign was not posted, but did in fact not include the fact that they did not inform any of applicants' representatives that the sign was ready to be posted. So I just want to note that, because to me that it matters when proper procedures weren't fully applied for all parties.
I understand. So you've clarified for me the 150-day clock. I will now ask Ms. Planner House if she would clarify the notice requirements for the continuance, and include a comment in response to Ms. Larson's concern regarding the physical, and actually Mr. Katzaroff's concern regarding whether it's necessary to place a physical sign indicating the date of the continued hearing. So these are all related to the continued hearing. I'm not looking in retrospect. I'm looking back, or looking forward towards the continued hearing.
So regarding the location of the sign, the code does provide some guidance on where it should be located. It specifically speaks to it being visible. And so that's certainly something that Hearings Officer Frank, I think that would be to your discretion on whether the location of the sign meets that requirement. There are some photos I believe Ms. Larson has submitted in the record with where the current sign has been posted. And I could potentially pull that up fairly quickly here if that would be helpful tonight. And if you believe that that meets the procedural requirements, or if something different is required, I would defer to you on that, that particular procedural step. I do want to address Mr. Katzaroff's comments about notification of the sign being ready, because this is a courtesy email that we send to the applicant. There's no procedural requirement for us to notify the applicant and all of their representatives that a sign is ready, but we do send a courtesy email to the applicant. So to the extent he didn't receive notice, I don't think the county's obligated to notify anyone under the code. Moving forward, though, for notice on the continuation, the county's practice has always been to send out a second notice to all the parties that were originally notified of the original public hearing, and the date that Mr. Katzaroff has proposed does allow for that 21-day advance notice. So I think that, you know, the request from Ms. Larson can be accommodated with the date proposed by the applicant.
Thank you. My concern, based on the history of the Thornburgh Resort and its multitude of applications and appeals, is that it's unnecessary and I believe unforgivable to make a procedural error. These cases are challenging enough substantively to get into a procedural error. So my request would be actually, if I'm not sure I can go farther than that, but my request to the county would be that a notice be placed. Is there? And I guess probably should ask a question first. Is there a physical entrance that would be appropriate to place a posted sign?
And I'll probably need Mr. Katzeroff to confirm what, if there is an existing road. I'm not familiar with the lay of the land to respond.
Let me ask Ms. Larson, and then before we go there, she referenced a particular location. Ms. Larson, could you get back online here with us and tell us the specific location you were referring to?
Hello?
I hear you.
Okay. Yes, my concern is, and I brought this up a couple years ago, is the sign is actually across the street, across Klein Falls Highway with a speed limit of 55 miles an hour from where the entry gate is to this development. And to see the signs that they have put up on a pallet, you have to park your car on the other side on the street, about 150 feet away, get out, cross the highway, go down a ditch, and up a hill to read it. And then you have to turn around, go down the hill, down into the ditch, up the ditch, and then run across Klein Falls Highway. Where their entry gate is, there's plenty of area to post a sign, and then it would be on the correct side of the road where the new homes are going. It would also allow anybody to get out and look and read it. I don't know if there's any ADA or anything else with reading this this sign, but I really encourage anybody else to go and try to read the sign. I think that will pretty much say it. On the side that Thornburgh is being built, it does not have the ditch that is across the street.
Mr. Katzeroff, want to respond?
So Ken Katzeroff, for the record, applicant's attorney. I would just say, instead of just keep dropping me out of panelists, I could mute myself if I'm going to have to be a perennial visitor here. I don't know exactly. I don't have the photos that Ms. Larson apparently submitted. I don't know where the sign is, and I'm not seeing them on a cella, so it's hard for me to address the question. All I can say is the county's code, like Ms. House mentioned, states that it must be visible, and it sounds like it's visible. Again, it has to be on if I remember correctly, and I can't find the piece of the code right now, but it has to be on a publicly accessible road. Well, we're talking about a destination resort that is approved on 2,000 acres. And this is the most publicly accessible road, which is Klein Falls Highway. So there's not actually another place that the applicant can post it that has publicly accessible roads. So that's the only response that I can provide. And that, as far as I know, the posting has met the code, which is visible on a publicly accessible road. There isn't a side street or an alley or a arterial. This is a rural county area that has been approved for a destination resort. I mean,
All right,
I wish I could do something more, but there's really not a place to. Yeah.
I'm not trying to be argumentative. I'm not trying to be pushy, and I'm not trying to exceed my authority. All of those things obviously have to play a part. But Ms. Larson indicated that basically the sign was across the street from a part of the development that is proposed and been approved in the past. It seems, like I say, I'm not trying to be flippant about it. It just I don't understand why it can't be posted just across the street. It's still the same public road.
And like I said, I haven't seen the pictures, and I don't know where it's been posted. My understanding is it got posted this week after we were actually notified of the fact that the sign was ready. And so I'm not aware of the fact that it's across the street or anything of that nature, and it's hard for me to address that particular comment because it's not in Acela, which is the only record that I have access to with county files. So it's hard for me to actually address the particularized comment. I would generally agree that it should be on the same side of the road as the development. I just can't evaluate that because I don't have the information. Again, I'm also not trying to be argumentative. I'm just trying to deal with what I got.
And so, Hearings Officer Frank, I'm sorry to interrupt, but the document is in
Yes,
Acela, and it's also on the website for this project. So I do have the ability to share my screen.
Please do, because then I
And
can
we
hopefully
can,
address
we can
it.
review that if that would be helpful. But I want to defer to you on whether you think that would be necessary. I'm deferring to you, sorry, Hearings Officer Frank.
No, I'd love to see it.
So Christine Larson submitted several photos. I'm not sure if this is looking east or west, so I'll just have to kind of scroll through here to see what. So it is up on a slope, but it doesn't appear to be obstructed, at least to me, by any trees.
Miss Larson, are you still there?
She's being elevated.
She is being elevated, just a moment.
Thank you. Let's just leave her up there for a while.
Maybe let Christine know that she's arrived as a panelist and we have a question for her.
Ms. Larson, you're now a panelist, so I think the hearing's
Thank you.
asking you about the sign. I don't know if you can hear us.
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
So Miss Larson, I can hear you. I've seen the sign. It appears to be up at the slope. Are you telling me that directly across the street from this sign is the entrance that you're referring to, and it would be easier to see if it was just put on the other side where somebody could stop and get out and look at it easier?
It would be unquestionably better across the street, which is approximately probably 120 feet away from their gate. Where the entry gate is for Thornburgh is also next to an access for the BLL land. You can park cars and easily pull over and look at the sign if it's posted there. You don't even need to get out. The way it is now, if anybody goes out there or looks at some of the other pictures, and I have more, I don't know how to measure sight distance on the video, but there's nowhere to stop and park there. And then when you park down the road, you can see there's a gravel ditch. And on one of the other pictures, it shows how much steeper it is. And then you can also see how high you have to climb to go look at it. And if you look at where the road is, and I'm it's facing south towards Bend. The project is actually on the other side of the road.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Larson. Thank you, Mr. Katzroff. And thank you, Planner House. Here's the way I'd like to approach it. Mr. Katzroff, you can take whatever chances you want. However, I'm going to interpret the code section with respect to posting notices. So I'll just leave it up to you. It seems inane to me to not be able to put the notice across the street in a project of this size and complexity to allow folks to look to determine whether or not there's a hearing, what the hearing's about generally, and a date of any hearing. So, Mr. Katzroff, it's back on your plate. I don't expect a response now. I expect that if it remains in the location where it is, Ms. Larson may complain, and you're going to have to defend that as well. So we'll leave the location of the sign as is, or as I've just stated. You can do with it what you wish. Any further comments with respect to the granting of the continuance? Because at this point in time, I've heard no objections to the granting the continuance, and I'm inclined to continue it to a date uncertain, but that date certain will be placed in a notice exceeding the 21-day notice period.
So Hearings Officer Frank, there is one additional person with their hand raised, Paula Latasa.
Okay.
Are you able to hear me?
I am. Go ahead. First name, last name, spell your last name, and give us your mailing address, please. And I can see a picture of you.
Great. Paula Latasa, Latasa. And my address is 65180 76th Street, Bend 97703. I simply would like to request mailing of a notice as well.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
We will do so. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you for your diligence.
Anyone else's hand raised?
No, there are no other hands raised.
All right. So
I'm sorry.
we will
I'm
continue.
sorry. Hearings Officer Frank, someone
I'm
just,
sorry.
someone just walked in person. Do you have objections to the requested continuance, which you may not have heard? Okay.
I don't know what it's about, but I don't object. Can you explain that? What that is?
Could you mind just coming up to the mic so that the hearings officer can respond? Thank you.
Push this one here.
Yes.
We were just wondering if you could explain what the continuance was about.
I need your first name, last name, spell your last name, and give us a mailing address, please.
First name's Van, last name's Evans, Evans. Mailing address is 1565 Northwest Portland Avenue, Bend, Oregon, 97703.
Thank you, sir. What it means is that there will not be a full evidentiary hearing tonight. That the applicant has requested that this hearing occur, a full evidentiary hearing occur in the future right now a date uncertain, but suggesting a date in May. And I'm going back up and looking, I think it was May 4th. So May 4th. So we would basically come back, you would get to come back in or do it online and offer your testimony and listen to the other testimony from folks on that date.
Okay.
So nothing's going to be decided tonight at all, other than we're going to come back and do it again.
Okay, so we're not accepting comments tonight.
Why don't you just stay there, because I am accepting comments tonight. We're not at that stage yet. Okay?
Okay.
So hold tight, be patient with me, and I'll get to you.
Okay, thank
All
you.
right. Anyone else, Ms. House?
No, that's it.
All right. So as I indicated, we will continue the hearing to a date uncertain, but tentatively May 4th at 6 p.m. I am requesting that a notice, in fact, requiring that a notice of the continued hearing be sent to all participants that are legally obligated to be sent notices or requested notices or appeared tonight. Those folks will be getting a notice of the continued hearing. We've also talked about the posting of notice, and I've left that to Mr. Katzeroff and his client to decide how they want to deal with that. So I am granting the request for continuance. Now I'm going to talk about a couple things, and Mr. Evans, you're going to be one of them. So be patient with me. Anyone who wishes to testify tonight will be given an opportunity to do so. But what I'd like to caution you on is that if you have had an opportunity to read the staff report, and if you listen to Mr. Katzeroff's comments tonight, the playing field may not be exactly the same when it comes to May 4th or whatever the date is that we continue the hearing to. It appears, and I can't suggest enough that you review and read the staff report prepared by Planner House. And in there, you'll realize that the applicant is going to be responding to a number of issues. And as Mr. Katzeroff indicated tonight, that response may include, we've already decided that would be the response, or they may provide additional information, which is in addition or even potentially changed from what the staff report was based on. So what I'm telling you is it is entirely possible that things will change, and I expect that there will be some change in what the exact proposal from the applicant looks like, at least their responses. So with that in mind, you may and do have a right to testify tonight, but if you testify on something that's going to change, that testimony will not have a great deal impact or effect, potential impact or effect on my decision. So my suggestion is you wait for the second hearing or the May 4th hearing or the continued hearing to present your full testimony so that you're responding to whatever is in the record as of that point in time. With that said, as I indicated before, anyone who wishes to testify tonight has the opportunity to do so. Normally, what I would do during a hearing is give a fairly lengthy set of instructions and comments relating to testimony and the order of testimony and what is relevant testimony and what gets seriously considered. I would normally do that, and I'm not going to do that tonight only because I'd have to repeat it again in the continued hearing. So with those kind of points being made, anyone who wishes to testify tonight in support or in favor of the application will be given the first opportunity. Then I will ask for those who either are neutral or in opposition. So, Ms. House, is there anyone who wishes to testify tonight in support or in favor of the application? I've heard from Mr. Katzeroff. He's certainly free to offer testimony or argument tonight, but my cautions apply to him equally as to anyone else, is that he's going to be given a full opportunity at the May 4th or continued hearing to present those points. So anybody wishing to testify in support of the application?
Anyone in the room? And if you're attending remotely, can you use the raise hand feature if you're wanting to testify in support of the application? I'm seeing no raised hands. Hearings Officer Frank.
All right. So this is a time and the opportunity for anyone in opposition or neutral. Mr. Evans, since I've already recognized you and you're sitting up front, let's give you first crack at it. So if you wish to offer testimony tonight, please do so at this time.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate your time. To the state, county, and Thornburgh applicants, I can only speak from the heart and for myself today, but I would like to think that I share a common voice with most Deschutes County residents who, it seems from my recent involvement in this issue, have all adamantly opposed this proposed resort within all public forums I have attended. I have yet to hear one pro-resort voice from the public inside or outside of the public process. People's wells are going dry, and the drought is right on their doorstep. Anybody really paying attention can see the ominous writing on the wall in developing mega golf resorts in these scarce and uncertain times. That being said, I stand here today not just for myself, but especially for all the real Central Oregon farmers and ranchers, Native and Indigenous people of this region, future generations, long-term locals, naturalists, and truth seekers from all walks of life. And most importantly, perhaps, I stand here today to give a voice to that which has no voice, Mother Earth and this sacred land. These pillars of our community's foundation are rapidly being taken for granted, exploited, and put in second place to development within the specific case and in the general short-sightedness of Deschutes County land use planning and Deschutes County water management. Along with our climate, our development paradigm must change as well. If we are to survive as a community, we must start putting the environment first, not second. I do not usually involve myself in this sort of public process, and it certainly isn't my cup of tea, but as a 33-year native Central Oregonian, I feel compelled to speak up for this place I love. So besides the fact that the majority of this community has sensibly spoken out against Thornburgh Resort and most resorts in general, which ought to be enough, we must stop kicking the proverbial can down the road with the proposed development. We must remember and address a most urgent matter that continues to be overlooked and swept under the rug. Residents of Deschutes County and the general public have yet to see the agreed-upon burden of proof plans based on current science promised by Thornburgh applicants for both a solid water mitigation and wildlife mitigation plan for their proposed resort. It is both frustrating and preposterous we are even considering any more site plan application approvals until these two fundamental and core issues are addressed and resolved. And with the extravagant natural resource exploitation this resort intends to use, a practical mitigation plan may not be possible. And as publicly elected officials, it's then on you to say no. So I would like to end with a quote from a rainwater harvesting book I've been reading lately. A thing is right when it tends to preserve the integrity, stability, and beauty of the biotic community. It is wrong when it tends otherwise. Thank you. And P.S., there are many who were unable to attend tonight due to the meeting's short notice. I ask that the county do a better job at reaching out to the public and encouraging public participation. Otherwise, who are you really representing? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. I appreciate your testimony. Anyone else wishing to testify this evening in opposition? Keeping in mind that you're going to have an opportunity to testify at the continued hearing.
Paul Lipscomb, for the record. My address is P.O. Box 579, Sisters, Oregon, 97759. The hearings officer and I are familiar with each other through writing, but you've never seen me before, and we've never spoken in person. I'm not going to try and give any kind of detailed explanation. My feeling is that sometimes I get too bogged down in the details and don't present the big picture. So tonight I'm going to just present the big picture. My view of the legality of this destination resort is this. It's been mapped for a destination resort, period, end of sentence. A destination resort, if you think of it as a Venn diagram, comprises a large area. And a destination resort without residential uses is a smaller area within the larger one. It's a subset, if you will, of a destination resort. And my view is that that's the way the statutes, the Deschutes County Comprehensive Plan, and the Deschutes County ordinances all individually treat this same problem. The destination resort, mapped as a destination resort, will remain a destination resort even if it is not allowed to site residences within the resort. Thank you very much. That's really all I have to say tonight.
Thank you, Your Honor. I appreciate it. It's nice to put a face to the writings. Anyone else?
I saw a remote attendee with a username of CFF with their hand raised previously, but it doesn't look like your hand is raised any longer. But I don't see any other hands. Oh, their hand just came up. So our producer will promote them. Just a moment.
Yes, hello. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Please identify yourself.
Yes, my name is Kate Havstad Kassad. I am co-owner.
You could spell both first and last name. I'd appreciate it.
CATEHAVSTAD.
Thank you. Your address?
2595 Northwest Elm Lane.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Thank you.
Did we get a city and a zip code?
Madras, Oregon.
Zip?
97741.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Hearings Officer. I have learned quite a lot through following the Thornburgh Resort's many issues and their many applications. Something I'm continuously struck with as each application and notice of a hearing comes up is, especially regarding the decision that was made by you after the last hearing for the previous round of applications for this resort, is my understanding is that the final master plan pretty clearly lines out a couple key conditions for approval, which are current water permits and then proof of mitigation water and then further proof that there will be no negative impact to fish and wildlife. And my understanding is that as things stand in this moment, the applicant doesn't have secured and proven mitigation water and thus can't actually prove that the impact of their applications, that there'll be no net negative impact to fish and wildlife. I know that the current water permits are perhaps a debatable question, but my understanding is that the job of the county, your job as the hearings officer, you have a quasi-judicial role to really just observe if the conditions of the final master plan are being adhered to when you're considering each application individually. And it seems like, from my perspective, that these conditions for approval have not actually been adhered to. So to consider approving any application at this point does not seem aligned with how the final master plan was lined out. So thank you very much. This issue is deeply concerning to us. We are a family farm in Madras. We will not be receiving enough water to grow 100 tons of organic food to be delivered to Central Oregon this year. This week, we had to make a very difficult decision because there's not enough water in this region to not grow 100 tons of food for our community. It's been devastating. It's going to continue to be devastating. There is no way that this resort can prove that it has the mitigation water to prove no net negative impact to fish and wildlife. So thank you for thinking about that as you consider each application.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate your testimony. Anyone else, Ms. House?
No one else in person or any remote participants have their hands up, so we're good.
All right, thank you.
Actually, I'm
I
sorry.
appreciate,
Just as soon as I said that, it looks like one person raised their hand remotely. So Ruby Swanson will be promoted momentarily.
okay.
Did you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. First name, last name, spell them both, and give us a mailing address, please.
Well, first of all, I have to say bingo. I can't believe I did this. This is so hard to do this. I'm not very good at this technical stuff. Anyway, my name is Ruby, R-U-B-Y, Swanson, S-W-A-N-S-O-N. Address 60451, Umatilla Circle, Bend, Oregon, 97702. And did I do everything what you wanted prior? Right?
You did. Thank you.
It's another bingo. I just want to say, I know, whatever. This is hard. You know, I'm not young. Anyway, I just want to say that I'm opposed of all Thornburgh developments. This whole thing is just crazy. I am fully aware of the cons. However, I haven't seen really one pro or benefit that benefits Bend in general. The projects are environmentally irresponsible. As a reminder to whoever's listening to all, there is a drought so bad that we haven't recorded one this bad in 1,200 years. I have to ask myself, why is it so important to put all these golf courses and lakes in the middle of the desert? How is this development supporting spotted frog, steelhead, wildlife, rivers, organic farmers, farmers of any kind? I just kind of go, Furthermore, it lacks appropriate infrastructure and only supports the wealthy and nothing for the low-income housing. And not to mention the wealthy developers. Looks to be like this development is completely lacking mindfulness and is all about greed. All I'm asking is for whoever's listening to this to please be responsible and reject Thornburgh developments and be mindful about this decision. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Ms. Swanson. You did fine.
Another bingo.
Yeah. Yep. You can collect on your way out.
Fat chance, right? Thank you. Good night.
Additional persons to testify.
Yes, so there's one more remote participant. We're going to promote Kim Brannock. And Kim, you'll need to unmute yourself. There you go.
Hello?
I can hear you.
My name is Kim Brannock, K-I-M-B-R-A-N-N-O-C-K. My address is 163 Northwest Flagline Drive, Bend, Oregon, 97703. And I wanted to ask a question or submit an additional comment about the land use notification. And I'm sorry I didn't say it sooner, but I was trying to do some research. But it feels misleading to me for the land use notification to not be placed on the property. I'm out on public land all the time. And as a user of public land in a parking lot that's adjacent, the BLM land, there's a lot of people in our community who don't fully know about this resort. and not having the land use notification placed on the property is misleading to the public. And there's a lot of opportunity for the public to learn more about it if the land use sign is placed on the correct side of the road. So that's all I wanted to submit.
Thank you, Ms. Brannick. And if you've been listening to the entire hearing,
I have.
I basically placed the onus onto the applicant to assure that they've met the legal requirements of placing the notice. I don't think anyone, including the applicant, is going to disagree that in concept that people should know about land use applications, those folks that are impacted. So, but there are limits to that, and the code and the state law do place some limits on the. I'm placing the obligation on the applicant to make sure that they've met those. So thank you for your testimony.
All right, thank you very much.
Yes. Ms. House?
Okay, I am not seeing any more hands raised, but it does look like Mr. Katzaroff may want to provide some rebuttal testimony, which she did mention earlier, so.
Yes. Go ahead, Mr. Katzaroff. Are you still on there, or did
I'd love to chuckle
they
too.
demote you?
It probably should. No, just kidding. In all fairness, I absolutely hear the comments about goal 1, and we will do our best to comply with that. I will say I have taken a look at Ms. Larson's photos as well as the actual property maps, and it is posted on the subject property, Thornburgh. In fact, Central Land and Cattle property straddle both sides of the highway. So I want to be clear there that we are on the subject property as well. However, the comments are heard loud and clear. I want to make one other main piece of rebuttal. I'll just be real quick on 2, actually. First of all, let's be clear, Thornburgh is absolutely complying with its mitigation plan, which was at 100% in compliance with Oregon Water Resources Department Deschutes Basin water standards and requirements. And the only other thing I want to say is with regards to Mr. Lipscomb, he has raised in proceedings before this hearings officer, the county, and LUBA, an argument under ORS 197455 relating to Deschutes County's resort mapping. That argument has been settled by LUBA, the Court of Appeals, and quite frankly rejected also by the Supreme Court. So I just want to be clear that is really a closed issue. We're happy to brief it again as it becomes appropriate. But it's one of those where it's I hear it, but it's contrary to the law. So I just need to be clear that that's a settled issue. So happy to answer any other questions. Otherwise, look forward to being back here in about a month.
Thank you, Ms. Katzaroff. I'm not going to ask any more questions. If you are no longer elevated, it doesn't mean you are demoted. It just simply means that I don't have anything further for you. All right. I'm not going to get into the particulars of Mr. Katzaroff's comments with respect to the mitigation plan or Mr. Lipscomb's arguments. One of the things that I have attempted to do is, particularly in the last 2 decisions that I rendered about a month plus ago, is hopefully set up the opportunity for either the commission, and in this particular case, for those cases, not the commission, would be a higher body, either the Land Use Board of Appeals or an appellate court. I tried to establish what I believe to be the legal basis for my decisions on things like Judge Lipscomb's argument and the mitigation water and plans and those kind of things. So those issues I have spoken on before. It doesn't mean, and as anyone who participated in the last 2 decisions will appreciate, is one of the things I said specifically to Mr. Kleinman was, please do me a favor. and I'm speaking to Mr. Klein through all of you that are in the audience, whether you're the applicant or an opponent, is if there's new information or there's new law or there's new evidence that can affect a decision that I've already made, then that's fair game. And in fact, it seems to me that having reviewed the staff report, that the staff has taken that concept to heart and has looked at each and every one of the approval criteria on this particular case, as one of the testifiers said, on this particular case, as how it relates to the relevant laws or rules. And so I will do my best to do that. Kind of picking on poor Mr. Evans, but I mean it in a very positive sense, is that it's really important. And one of the comments that I make in my normal opening statement is that I am limited. And in some respects, the county elected officials are limited to making land use decisions based on the laws or rules in effect at the time the application is deemed complete. That's somewhat of a generalization. The county elected officials and myself are not given free rein to do what we like, dislike, or even may think is correct. We are obligated to follow the rules in effect at the time the application is deemed complete. So when you're getting ready for the next hearing, please offer any and all evidence that you wish. Please offer any and all arguments that you feel are appropriate. But keep in mind that the decision is going to be made based on the relevant laws or rules. And that's what I'm obligated to do. So with that, then, the hearing will be continued to a date uncertain, but tentatively May 4th at 6 p.m.
And hearings
Notices will be sent out to all participants. And anyone who participated tonight through their testimony and gave their address will obviously be considered a participant and receive notice. Anything else that I should be commenting on, Mr. or Ms. House?
I just wanted to note, Kate Havstad, I believe, has her hand raised again, but I believe since the applicants provided their rebuttal, I don't know if you would like her to be elevated, but I did want to acknowledge that her hand is raised. And I guess in addition to that, just I want to clarify that staff has confirmed the May 4th date works for our department. So to the extent we want to officially schedule that and provide public notice, to meet that 21-day requirement, the county staff are prepared to do that. But I recognize that you probably need to check your schedule as well.
Let me do that right now, and May 4th works fine. So my equivocation is now being eliminated. The continuance will be to May 4th at 6 p.m. It will be conducted via Zoom or the hybrid model. So if you wish to appear at the county, you can, but it will be held online or via Zoom. We will hold a full evidentiary hearing, at least that's what I expect, on May 4th at 6 p.m. My suggestion, again, is that if, in fact, you plan to testify, and there tends to be, in these Thornburgh cases, a fair number of folks wishing to testify, please do your best, if you can, to organize your testimony and make it as short as possible. But that's always keeping in mind that I want to hear what is important and relevant to this case. So with that, then, unless, Ms. House, you have anything further, we will, for lack of a better term, adjourn until May 4th. Anything further?
And I just want to acknowledge that you do not want Kate Havstad to be elevated because we've completed the testimony.
I do not. She's going to have an opportunity to present her additional testimony on May 4th. Ms. Huston, if you have any further questions, please contact Ms. House directly, and she will communicate with you from the staff perspective. But on May 4th, I'm going to be ready, willing, and able to listen to your testimony in full. So with that, then we will close this hearing. I appreciate the comments and testimony from you all. Wish you a good evening.